smart, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate those of you that tuned in to the Officer Tatum's program last night to listen. I will be filling in for the Officer Tatum tonight as well, and also on Friday. So make sure you check that out. I want to ask you to please or help my sponsor out, Mike Lindell of My Pillow. You can right now take advantage of both the Giza Dream Sheets and the Perkel Sheets that are on sale right now. I think I've been telling you guys the wrong price, forgive me, but it's $39.98. You can get the Perkel sheets or the Giza Dream Sheets that are on special regularly, or normally the Perkel bed sheets sell for $89.98, but for our listeners, $39.98. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, enter the promo code Carl, and take advantage of that deal or those deals. Also, you can give them a call if you prefer, 1-800-858-0263, 1-800-858-0263, and you can use the promo code Carl as well. Take advantage of those Perkel bed sheets and time for the holiday season that's coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I can't wait. I love this time of the year. Just absolutely look forward to it every single year. But, hook some family members up, hook some friends up. But use that promo code for anything, even the slippers. The slippers are on sale for $29.98, so you can get those as well. Use the promo code Carl. Also, please follow me on all of my social media, The Carl Jackson Show, wherever you prefer. Some of you started following me on Instagram last night. I'm so appreciative of that. Thank you so much. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on True Social, Getter, Twitter, and Facebook, The Carl Jackson Show. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can find me there, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please subscribe, like, review, and share there, guys. I know this can get a little, I mention this stuff a lot, but it really does help us. It's really important. It helps us get the word out. Also, you can go to SalemPodcastNetwork.com, TheCarlJacksonShow.com. All right, guys, is it okay to bring you some good news? I'm so used to talking about how the left is trying to destroy America. And the solution is always the Constitution, and the solution is always you, or we the people. The solution is always to fight back. I want to encourage you because I want you to understand that there's a lot of polling going around. People don't know who's ahead, or who's ahead or who's losing. And guys, I don't want you to pay attention to the polls. Leave that to me. I want to give you some comfort when it comes to some of the polls. They're off. It's very hard for these people to poll nowadays in a post-Trump America. A lot of people aren't speaking out. A lot of people are just shunning pollsters, even pollsters on the right. Some of the more accurate polls, the Rasmussen's, the Trafalgar, the McLaughlin group, they're often on with Sean Hannity. They're telling people how much it was harder to poll when Trump was in office. It's gotten even harder because of the persecution, if you will, that you see with the FBI and so on, et cetera. People and the divisiveness that exists across the country that the left intentionally created. So people don't want to say who they stand for, who they're voting for. They just rather be quiet. That leads me to believe that there is going to be still, I do believe there's going to be a red wave in the House. I'm not so sure about the Senate, but I do want to encourage you to make sure that you check that you support Senate candidates. Donate to these Senate candidates. They need your help. Blake Masters, I'm in Florida. I'm donating to Marco Rubio, but I'm going to donate to every single one of these senatorial candidates for the Republican side. Mitch McConnell has pulled funding away from Blake Masters. Why? I don't know, because, well, actually, I take that back. I have my own views. I believe it's because he's a conservative who doesn't necessarily want Mitch McConnell as the Senate leader. And Mitch McConnell did not like that. So as Blake Masters was closing the gap, Mitch McConnell pulled about $8 million worth of advertising bucks for him. Make that difference up. He was on Tucker Carlson. He talked about it. Make that difference up. We need a guy like that in the Senate. He's a young guy, but not just because he's young. He's got more of a conservatarian, I think, bent, and he understands technology. This is something that we are going to need in the Republican Party going forward. This isn't an ad campaign for Blake Masters, but I do want to tell you guys, please, please, please don't listen to any headline that says these guys can't win. They can win. This is the perfect season. This is the perfect election cycle for them to win. Herschel Walker is polling better in Georgia. Doesn't matter. Support him. Listen, people could come out at the last minute. You don't know. Support Herschel Walker. Support Marco Rubio. Support Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. Support, good Lord, Blake Masters in Arizona. Support J.D. Vance. You have a lady that's running against, last name is Smiley. Tiffany Smiley. She's running against, oh my God, I forget the senator the female senator in Washington. Anyway, support Tiffany Smiley. Donate some. Guys, you may have $5. You may have $10. Some of you can pay $50 or $500. Do so. We can win this thing. We can win this thing. We can start taking our country back, but it's going to cause all of us to be more involved than we have before. If you haven't donated before, do it. If you haven't stuck in a yard sign in your lawn before, do it. If you haven't talked to a neighbor before, do it. A family member before, do it. Don't be nasty about it. Don't be a jerk about it. Just ask questions and let them pry and say, well, did you know this? Did you know this? And let them ponder on it. Don't go back and forth. All right. But the reason that what I'm going to get in today is Trump's surprise breakthrough with Hispanic voters and how it's still wreaking havoc on the Democrat Party. And this is very, very, very important. Very important. All right. So here we go. Let's just get started on this. This was in the Washington Examiner. Continue. Don't get discouraged. Show your butt up. Don't listen to anybody that tells you these races aren't winnable. Show up. Show up, and bring a friend. I want to actually get into some real clear politics polling that we see on the Senate races as well. So I'll click that up. But mainly what I want to talk about today is the Latino vote. I was supposed to have Jorge Bonilla on last night, Media Research Center Latino. He couldn't make it on last night. He's swamped. Obviously, you guys know about the hurricanes that are impacting places like Puerto Rico. So pray for the people out there. I mean, they've gone through the gamut in 2017 with Maria. They are going through it again, although these storms weren't as hard. Their infrastructure aren't built up, and the infrastructure isn't built up, quite frankly, because a lot of the leaders there in Puerto Rico are corrupt as hell. But it doesn't mean the people are, and sadly, the people will be suffering. The people in Haiti, the same thing. If you can find places to donate to, go ahead, please do so. Samaritan's Purse, Food for the Poor. I forget, Mercury One is the one that Glenn Beck founded, and I understand they do fabulous work. I've donated there before as well. So your local Christian church, I've done that too to help out with that effort, but make sure that you guys donate whatever you can. I'm not a rich man by any stretch of the imagination, but if I can afford to give $20, $50, I'll do it to help out. If a lot of us chip in, it makes a big difference. That's what I want you to do in these Senate races. Just real quick, the governor's races. Kemp in Georgia is up 6.6% polling over Stacey Abrams. Carrie Lake is up now in Arizona 1 point, according to the Real Clear Politics. I need to send her. Man, I love that lady. I need to send her some money too. Nevada, Lombardo is up. Wisconsin, unfortunately, Evers is up, but we can change that. Here's a look at some of the Senate races. Nevada, Laxalt is up by 1 point. You have Bud, endorsed by Trump, up in North Carolina by 1.3 points. It says here that Kelly is up over Blake Masters in Arizona by 3 points. Guys, let's change that. Let's donate some money. Georgia is a tie between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. You have New Hampshire. Unfortunately, the Democrat is leading big time. In Pennsylvania, Dr. Oz is down. That's another one. That's another big race. Don't believe anything you hear about that race. Do not believe it. Feet on the ground. Or it's going to make a big difference in the Pennsylvania race. You may not have been excited about Dr. Oz, but he's far better than a left-wing radical like Fetterman, who's simply going to be a rubber stamp for the radical left of his party. That's all he's going with. This article, hat tip Washington Examiner. Trump's surprise breakthrough with Hispanic voters could spell doom for Democrats. So Joe Biden won 65% of the Latino vote in 2020. So you're listening to that and you're like, man, oh my God, that's huge. Now, I do want to offer this up. He campaigned on defending the working class. That hasn't happened, hence inflation. He campaigned on fixing the U.S. immigration system. He just opened the borders. So that hasn't happened. But also I want to say this about him winning 65%, because that sounds like a lot. And that is a lot, right? You win 65% of a certain block of Americans. That's a big number. But I want you to understand that it had decreased. The Democrats were winning over 70% of the Latino vote prior to Trump. The only other one that did as well was George W. Bush in 2004. I'll get into that slightly. So this is already a decrease in where the Republican Party or where the Democrat Party was, meaning the Republican Party gained more votes from Latinos under Trump. And we'll get into that shortly as well. But I want you to understand that from the get-go. So the media apparatus, they all said, listen, Trump would be the death knell to the GOP. They said that he would be the death knell to the GOP and the Latino vote. I'll explain to you why. You guys may remember some of the things that Trump said at the time, where everybody was like, oh, that's so politically incorrect. Oh, my God, that's so crazy. That guy is nuts. We got to get him out of office. We know it was just hysteria. He actually had the opposite effect on the Republican Party. Here's what Trump managed to accomplish. He actually made inroads with the Hispanic community himself. And now the Washington Examiner admits, and the Washington Examiner is a good outlet, they say that he may have presided over the demographic shifting from a reliably Democratic voting bloc to more of a swing vote, speaking of Latino voters. So because of Trump, the Washington Examiner is saying, listen, these Latino voters are now up for grabs. And I would say this, that Trump initially attracted them, but it was his policies that made some of them stay and made more Latinos pay attention to what's going on. Now, if the Latinos continue to leave the Democrat Party, it will have a lasting effect on future races going forward. And the left knows this. The Democrat Party knows this. They're scared out of their wits. What do you think these illegal aliens are doing? Why do you think the borders are open? That's replacement theory. They're scared as hell that they're going to be losing blacks. Listen, let's be honest. Can we be honest about this? Sadly, my black community, we kill each other. We either via abortion or murdering people in the streets. We kill too many of our people. Now, with so many people dying, Democrats are going to have to replace that vote. Plus, they're telling women, hey, don't have sex, they got to replace these people. So they'll open up the borders and they'll replace them with people that don't love America, that haven't assimilated to America, that'll be beholden to the Democrat Party rather than the Constitution. That's their goal. That's their goal, to fundamentally transform America and to make sure they do so with a bunch of people that are coming into the country that have no respect for our laws and aren't beholden to our Constitution, right? That's what they want to do. But here's the wrench. I'm going to make sure I don't lose my place. I want to get back to that. DeSantis has recently thrown a wrench in what the Democrats were trying to do. What the Democrats were trying to do is take the focus off of them heading into the 2020 elections and put all of the focus on Mar-a-Lago and Trump. And we should pay attention to what's happening in Mar-a-Lago and Trump because it can happen to us. And it is a breakdown of the Constitution. It's a breakdown of the rule of law. It's extremely important. But the first thing we have to do in order to rectify what's happening with the DOJ and the FBI is we have to win this election. We have to win this election. If you want to rectify what you saw happen in Mar-a-Lago, we have to win this election. And we have to win the White House in 2024. But we need to win the House. I'm hoping that we win the Senate. So that's why I'm telling you guys to listen, pick a candidate, adopt one of these senatorial candidates you can to put them over the hump. I don't even care if you live in the state or not. We need to help these people. Leftists are sending in all types of money to help their left-wing candidates because they know they'll just be a rubber stamp, just a face for the World Economic Forum. That's all they'll be. And the radical leftists, socialist, communists of the Democrat Party, that's all they'll be. So we need to help the freedom lovers. We need to help them fight back. Now, what DeSantis did by flying these people to, now I forget, Martha's Vineyard, is he took the spotlight off of Mar-a-Lago, right? Because the left wanted to focus on Trump, and try to put the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is weak and feckless. And so what they wanted to do was put the Republican Party on defense over Trump and Mar-a-Lago. Well, what DeSantis managed to do, and listen, you got to give Greg Abbott credit too, because he started this. He started this stuff. We all thought it was a stunt, I believe. It's just like, this is cool. Finally, we're giving the Democrats a dose of their own medicine, and it was just kind of fun. And then it went beyond that. It started really working. People started paying attention. The New York City mayor started whining. Muriel Bowser of the Washington D.C. mayor started whining and talking about all of their troubles and travails because they've gotten a few hundred and now a few thousand, illegal immigrants that were ushered into their cities, while we have those same numbers that are happening within a 24-hour period break through the country in 24 hours, like I said, and they're getting bussed in a few hundred. In some cases over 1,000 or maybe nearing 2,000, and they're going apoplectic. It's absolutely crazy. But Ron DeSantis, what he managed to do is just put the spotlight on liberals, the Democrats, and their policies, and all they do is virtue signal. We witnessed the same thing in Martha's Vineyard. These people, taking photos with the legal immigrants while they say, "Okay, get your butt out of here," kick them out after 24 hours from Martha's Vineyard, send them to Cape Cod to a military base, which it's fine. I'll be honest with you. I understand why the people of Martha's Vineyard didn't want the illegal aliens there, right? We don't want them either. That's what they don't understand. We don't want them either. We want people to come into the country legally. But Ron DeSantis managed to put the Democrats on defense. That's why they're going apoplectic. So he placed the spotlight on what Democrats really think of illegal immigrants, what they really think of illegal immigration. Like, okay, we're cool with illegal immigration. We're cool with people flooding in as long as they don't touch our enclaves, as long as they don't touch our protected areas. We're totally cool with illegal immigration. So he managed to do that by simply finally putting a plane in Martha's Vineyard. And I think those elites that Joe Biden and the leftists hang out with are saying, all right, mercy, 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 crying mercy. That's what we need to continue to do. That's what they need to continue to do. So I give them props for doing that. But that brings me back to Trump. It brings me back to Trump. I'm telling you, part of the reason why the left wants you to forget what they've done to destroy America is because it is affecting voting blocs that are normally loyal to the Democrat Party, namely the Latino vote that we're going through. And they have to admit, what they'll try to do is bring out the things that make you frustrated about Trump or make up things about Trump, the fake Russia collusion hoax, the Ukraine hoax, and now the Mar-a-Lago raid. So they want to make you mad at Trump, but they don't forget. They want you to forget about the great policies that Trump implemented where it caused Latino voters to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe this guy isn't so bad. So if they can overwhelm you with the bad, even though it's made up fake news, right? Then perhaps they can keep their voting block. And that's exactly what they're aiming to do. So in 2020, I told you, if Latinos continue to leave the Democratic Party, it will have a resounding effect on the future races going forward. The Democrat Party knows this. In 2020, listen to this. Trump won a higher percentage of the Latino vote than any GOP nominee since Bush in 2004. All right. So he's doing pretty good, despite the fact that all these people were saying, oh, Trump's a racist. He's going to lose the GOP. He's going to lose the Latino vote. He won 35% of the Latino vote. Now, I got to tell you this. Normally, when Republicans win their second election, they have to perform well with the Latino community. They have to do well. Sadly, what's been the case in the past is, all right, the black community is going to vote overwhelmingly for the Democrats. We can't make a lot of inroads there. We really need to focus on the Latino vote. Now, you should focus on everybody, right? Mention everybody. Tell everybody how your policies help everyone, and you can mention them specifically. I don't believe in creating blocks, but you can mention specific groups. Hey, listen, this is how this would help your community, your area. This is how this, so on, etc. Just break it down where you make it understandable, where you make it digestible. But Republicans typically don't win a second election if they don't do well with Latinos. Bush happened to be reelected. He didn't do as well the second go round. Reagan won in 49 states. That was a landslide, obviously, receiving 59% of the overall national popular vote. So he really kicked some booty. But Trump improved to 35%. This was up from 14 points for Mitt Romney in 2012. And everyone said, hey, Mitt Romney, this is the guy, right? This is the guy that Republicans need. This is a moderate. This guy has a lot of, business savvy, so on, et cetera. But he wasn't a fighter. And that didn't appeal to many Latinos or as many Latinos. So whatever reason, Romney, I think he really screwed up on that second debate. He really came after Barack Obama in the first debate. And everybody was like, yes, finally. And then he revealed that he was just going to be an establishment Republican after the second debate and just said, I'm going to cave to all of the media lies and the left-wing distortions about white men. And, they're going to say that I'm a racist if I really take on this guy, when what he should have been focused on were the voters and saving America from Obamacare and so on, et cetera. But unfortunately, he wasn't. Right. but it was different with Trump. Here, let me share this. Trump won 41%. This is in Texas, won 41% of the Latino vote in Texas, 46% in Florida. That's big news, especially if you know the Miami area. That's really big news. He carried the Cuban Americans, right, in Florida. While the non-Hispanic vote went 62% for Trump in Florida, 66% in Texas. So that obviously helped him win the big states of Florida and Texas in the 2020 election, right? Trump increased the Latino shift to the GOP in key swing areas. This is very important. Very important. And now, guys, I'm mentioning this. I don't want you to think that you're not important as a voter. I'm important as a voter. We're important as conservative voters, right? Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Asian, we're all important. But I just specifically want to talk about the Latino vote today. So Trump increased the Latino shift to the GOP in the key swing areas. Again, or not again, but in both South Texas and South Florida. So they saw double-digit increases in Republican support. I'm telling you guys, this is uncanny. Democrats didn't expect this. You know, they got Beto O'Rourke there, you know, Beto. You know, they want people to believe the guy is actually Spanish, including as much as 20 points in parts of Miami-Dade County. Guys, I travel to Miami. You come to Florida, travel to Miami. Gabe, am I lying? I mean, it's heavily Latino. And over 10 points he gained in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. These are huge numbers. These are numbers that the Republican Party, if they look past, they will be stupid as heck to do so. Here's a quote from the liberal data guru. His name is David Shore. He was interviewed by New York Magazine. Here's what he said. And he's a Democrat, all right? So he said, one important thing to know about the decline in Hispanic support for Democrats is that it was pretty broad. This is crucial. He says, this isn't just about Cubans in South Florida, which, again, I mentioned to you that Trump won 41% of the Hispanic vote or Latino vote in, 46%. And a good portion of that were Cubans in the South Florida area. They carried the day. So, but this guy, this liberal Democrat says, David Shore is his name. He says, this isn't just about Cubans in South Florida. It also happened in New York. It happened in California, and it happened in Arizona and Texas. Now you understand why the left has to destroy Trump? Because he's messing with one of their largest voting blocs. Besides blacks, right? Asians, it's Latinos. But obviously, Asians aren't as large of a percentage of the population as Latinos, neither are blacks. So they're messing with, Trump is making inroads within the Latino community. We better destroy this fool. It isn't just upsetting the apple cart in Washington, D.C. It's upsetting the apple cart that exists outside of Washington, D.C. that the liberal elites inside of Washington, D.C. count on. That was pretty good. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Sometimes sometimes I just amaze myself. And I stay humble in doing so. Anyway, but he was messing with the Democrats' voting bloc, and he has managed to continue messing with the Democrats' voting bloc. The question is, will the Republicans take advantage of this? You have people like Mitch McConnell in Washington, D.C. I don't think they're wise enough to do so. But this is why the left fears Trump. It gets worse for Democrats. Here's what a Wall Street Journal poll found earlier this year. 1, the two parties were tied among Hispanics in the generic ballot. The second thing, the Democratic share of the Hispanic vote fell from more than 60% in 2020 to just 37%. Now, this is polling. All right? This is polling. But remember, Biden won 65% of the Latino vote in 2020. A high number, but down from where Democrats used to be. The Democratic share of the Hispanic vote, again, fell from more than 60% in 2020. Again, Biden was at 65% to just 37%, with Republicans also taking 37%, while another 22 were undecided. Do you see what's happening? It's almost as if Trump is doing more damage to the Democrat Party and the Latin-leaning vote for the Democrat Party out of office. And that's because I believe And actually, I know, I'll tell you why in just a sec, but I know the reasons why. Actually, we'll just get into those in just a sec. But let me further dissect this. Again, Democrats now, the share of the Hispanic vote fell from more than 60% in 2020, just to reiterate, so to just 37%, with Republicans also taking 37%, while another 22% are undecided. So let's say we were to hold an election today, and these numbers are accurate, and these numbers are true. It would mean that not only are Republicans tied with the Democrats, with the Latino Joe Biden, you would still see that would still top them out at 59 points, meaning that would be a 6-point drop from 2020, which would be devastating to the Democrat Party. But I think it's going to be worse than that. Listen to these stats. 54% of Hispanics disapproved of the job Joe Biden was doing as president, compared to just 42% who approved. See, when you start diving in, things get a little worse. It isn't just about skin color anymore. Latinos are waking up and they're paying more attention to policy. They're becoming more educated voters. They're becoming swing voters. They don't want to be a monolith. Unfortunately, the black vote has become a monolith. Many are working to change that. Thank God. But as of this point, the blacks are still heavily a monolith vote. But what Trump has managed to create with his policies, which I'll get into shortly, is more of a swing vote that Republicans can take advantage of if they're smart. Not take them for granted, but again, let me reiterate this. 54% of Hispanics disapproved of the job Joe Biden was doing as president, compared to just 42% who approved. Among Hispanic men, disapproval stood at 61%. That was compared to 38% approval. I mean, the guy's numbers are tanking within the Latino community. Now, let's suppose there was a hypothetical rematch between Trump and Biden. All right, so in a hypothetical presidential rematch, the Hispanic voters were nearly tied again. Biden would take 44% of the Hispanic vote to Trump's 43%. The polls margin of error was plus or minus 7.6 percentage points, which is big, but that's only because, like I told you earlier, they're having a very difficult time polling. That's why I'm like, don't believe the polls, guys. Just keep fighting for the soul to save America. Save America. Hispanic men voted for Trump by 23 points, giving him 56%. With Hispanic women, they broke for Joe Biden, where he was up 55% to 30% over Biden. All right. Still, 63% of Hispanic respondents overall said the economy was headed in the wrong direction, to 25% who thought it was going the right way. Now, I got to tell you, we have to talk about the economy because it's very important, right? Inflation and how everyone is being impacted. Here's the danger of talking about inflation and the economy alone if you're Republican. If you have a blip on the radar, meaning if things actually start going well, then people start assuming, okay, maybe Biden isn't doing as bad as we think. And that's what he's trying to do by robbing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve them down artificially when they're going to skyrocket after the election, because he's only going to take so much from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, even though he's going to take more than he's going to take it to it. Well, the guy is an absolute disgrace, a disaster for the United States of America. Hopefully he doesn't get us into a war with China, the moron, talking about what he would do if China attacks Taiwan. Just shut your pie hole, man. You've already gotten us in a world of danger. It's unbelievable. The guy just doesn't know how to shut up. Sometimes that's the best thing you can do. Just shut up. All right. So anyway, now having said that, they all said that Trump was supposed to be incompatible with the GOP, with the Latino vote. You guys remember that. They said he was hostile in general to Latinos, hostile to immigrants. They said all of that stuff. Remember, he spoke of rapists. He spoke of building the wall. He said Mexico would pay for it. Remember, everybody laughed. Even I was like, how are you going to get Mexico to pay for it? But eventually he came up with the Remain in Mexico City policy. And that's because he was squeezing Mexico on trade and tariffs and so on, et cetera, to a point where eventually they complied. And he got this into place. I mean, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So he slowed the border down. He made trade better for everyone. I think not just Mexico, but just around the world. Just absolutely fantastic. And some of the that was saved, he wanted to use towards the wall. The Democrats fought him tooth and nail to prevent that from happening. But nonetheless, Trump's policies continue to prevail, particularly in the Latino community. Many commentators opine that Trump would do the Latino vote what Barry Goldwater did. Barry Goldwater, you may remember, and Barry Goldwater was like the Rand Paul of his day. Actually, I mean, he was a very good senator. He was in a time and era where obviously he was thinking of the Constitution. He wasn't a racist, as the left tries to frame him as. He wasn't LBJ, he wasn't JFK. Dare I say that? But he wasn't a racist. He was a libertarian. And so he was a libertarian trying to stick to the Constitution. He didn't vote for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, mind you, there was a Civil Rights Act passed nearly 100 years before by Republicans. All right. But he saw that it was taking away state issues, and that was an issue for him. It was a legitimate issue where he was trying to look at the bigger picture in the long run, knowing that the hearts of men and women should be changed inside of churches, not by the federal government. But it didn't bode well for the Republican Party, needless to say. So the Republican senators vote against the Civil Rights Act. Was the party's, he was the party's presidential nominee. I think that was in 1960 or 1964. I think that was in 1960. That he was. So he was the presidential nominee that year, 1960. Republicans went from winning 32% of the black vote in 1960 to just 6% 4 years later, and never made it out of the teens again. I'm going to speak to that, but I want to read this quote first by McConnell. Here's what Mitch McConnell said, the Senate minority leader. It did define our party for at least African-American voters, and it still does today. Let me stop there. It doesn't define the party today. It doesn't define the party today, Mitch. If you make the efforts and the inroads within the black community, it doesn't. You see Larry Elder doing it. You see the Officer Tatums. You see all of the people involved in Uncle Tom and Uncle Tom too. You see Candace Owens. You see so many of them that came before them. Jason Riley, DeRoy Murdoch, Thomas Sowell, Walt Williams. All of these people could have been, for lack of a better word, used at your disposal. But anyway, this is what Mitch McConnell said. That was a complete shift that occurred that year, and we've never been able to get them back. So I think it was a defining moment for Republicans with regard to the accomplishments that we had made for African Americans going back to the Civil War. When asked if he worried Trump might do similar lasting damage with Hispanics, he replied, "I do." That was McConnell at the time. Well, he was wrong. And I think he's also wrong about the black vote. This is the problem. I think Republicans look back in history and say, look what happened there, instead of saying, look at what we're going to do now, given this era, given the era that we live in. We're not a racist party. We're a party that believes in freedom. We believe in economic prosperity for everyone. This is our game plan to make sure that you're politically, spiritually, and economically free here in the United States of America. This is what we're going to do. So, and by the way, they started losing votes going back to FDR. It wasn't, you can't blame Barry Goldwater for this, right? You had LBJ running on the Great Society, for God's sakes, telling people he was going to pay them give them all of this money, and that eventually ran the daddies out of black homes. So you can't blame Barry Goldwater. It was already happening under FDR. FDR siphoned off some of the black vote. He said, by the way, during that time, those N-words will never vote Republican again, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, not paraphrasing the N-word part, but that's what FDR said. By giving out all these handouts to minority communities, he knew that the Democrats had them. This is what the Republican Party doesn't seem to understand. This is why we've got to offer freedom. We've got to be the party of freedom. All right. And Trump gets this. All right. So now, what Democrats didn't understand was that both white and Latino working class voters weren't big on immigration. See, immigration isn't a kitchen table issue. Oh, my God. This immigration issue. No, you're worried about the price of gas, the price of food, being able to put a roof over your head, food in your mouth, all that kind of, that's the stuff that you worry about. So immigration isn't an issue until leftists bring it to the forefront, or rhino Republicans bring it to the forefront, because they're scared. Here's what Jim Robb said. He's an author. He wrote the book Political Migrants, Hispanic Voters on the Move. He said Hispanic voters oppose illegal immigration very strongly, and they are generally in favor of low legal immigration too. Why is that? Why is that? It's because they don't want someone replacing them. It's protection, just like any of us would want, right? We want to protect our jobs. We want to protect our communities. We don't want a bunch of strangers moving in. If they come in legally, so be it. We don't want mass migration. That it isn't just a black or white thing, an American thing. Why do you think we're the only country, industrialized country, dumb enough to allow 1 million people in our country every year? That's with legal immigration. That's what legal immigration. I think we need a moratorium on that, quite frankly. And I like legal immigration. I just think because the left and the open borders has spoiled things, we need a moratorium on immigration for a while until we get things under control. And we can repatriate a lot of the people that came into the country illegally. I want them to have a better life. But I don't think a better life is subjecting yourself to Mexican cartels, being susceptible to rape and violence and all this kind of stuff by the Mexican cartels. I don't think that's a better life. Having to live underground and forced jobs, forced to work jobs you wouldn't be forced to work were you to come here legally. Many of these people that have come to America illegally actually probably left a better life in the countries where they were. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, but here's what happened. Latinos flocked to the GOP. Many of them did because they were repelled by a few things. COVID-19 lockdowns that the Democrats were big on. By the way, Joe Biden said the pandemic is over, but still there's teachers that are getting fired in New York City. Pritzker, the governor of, Illinois? I believe it's Illinois. He's talking about new COVID orders, emergency orders. It's insane. The people are insane. But here's what Latinos wanted. Latinos wanted to be able to provide for their family like anyone else. And the COVID-19 lockdowns, not the virus itself, but the lockdowns mostly imposed families. All right? Defund the police. Latinos want law and order. Democrats didn't. The Democrats are trying to pretend like they were never against defunding the police. We all know that's a lie. We all know they caved to BLM and Antifa and all these radicals. Socialism. Socialism is another thing. A lot of Latinos that have immigrated here from different parts of the world fled socialism, fled communism. They don't want any part of it. And so they come to America and they see things are different and they can move around and they can do virtually anything they want. And so sometimes they don't recognize socialism trickling in. But then you get a person like Biden in office and it's like, oh my God, I'm starting to hear and see some of the very things of socialism. So these are the main reasons. COVID-19 lockdowns, defund the police movement, socialism. I think Trump woke a lot of these Latino voters up, but now it's the policies that are having many Latino voters say, wait a minute, maybe we were wrong about this Democrat Party. So the GOP could become the multiracial working party, and that's what they should strive to become. The multiracial working class party, I should say. Here's a quote from a liberal data guru, David Shore. Again, he said, roughly the same proportion of African-American, Hispanic, and white voters identify as about the results of their policy. They just want their policy regardless because that's their religion. That's what they believe in. While non-white voters haven't been, he says, something like 80% of white conservatives vote for Republicans. What happened in 2020 is that non-white conservatives voted for Republicans at higher rates. They started voting more like white conservatives. Man. Then he goes on to say, this is Neil Newhouse from the Washington Examiner. He said the shift among Hispanic men was clear, and it seems they were attracted to the strong leadership that Trump offered. He says that movement sped up in the 20 cycle as part of the national debate revolved around the Democrats' lurch towards socialistic policies. So why would the men? I've always contended that Latino men love the machismo of Trump. Even me, I wasn't fond of Trump at the beginning. I was a Ted Cruz guy. But I was like, man, I saw something about his swagger, his machismo. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think brothers are going to like this. A real man. Joe Biden doesn't do that. You don't get that feeling with Joe Biden. And a man instinctively wants to protect. So they can respect Trump as someone that's protecting their rights, and they want to be able to protect their family from socialism. So there's no guarantee that this trend will continue, but I do think that as we reach out, I do think that as we talk about policy and you match up policy for policy, this is why Biden coming in as the next president has been a disaster for Democrats. It's been beneficial in the sense that they've turned the country a little further left. There's no doubt about that. But it's also great because now we can compare, since Trump was just recently out of office, we can compare the policies. And what the Democrats want to do is make you focus on Mar-a-Lago and more functionality instead of Trump's policies. Don't let them get away with that. So here's the conclusion. Instead of building a wall between the GOP and the Latino vote, Trump actually built a bridge. And it's up to us to sustain that bridge and to continue building upon that bridge and make it even larger. Guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Make sure you check me out tonight on the Officer Tatum's program. Also, check me out on wherever I am on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. Make sure you put the word "the" in front. Also, subscribe to the podcast wherever podcasts are found: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please, por favor, really do appreciate that. And don't forget to support our friends at MyPillow. Mike Lindell specifically, he's being persecuted yet again simply because he's a patriot. Well, you can help out his business. You can help him out. You can help this podcast out as well. Just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, enter the promo code Carl, and take advantage of their deal with the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percale bed sheets that are on sale for $39.98. So you do have to order now while they're gone. It's only good while supplies last, but they do have a 10-year warranty. They have a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you cannot beat that with a bat. But you can help out American jobs, American manufacturing, and a patriot in Mike Lindell. You can also help out this podcast and bless your family, man. Make sure they sleep beautifully, walk beautifully. They even got the slippers on sale. Those are $29.98. Use the promo code Carl. Take advantage of that, or call 800-858-0263. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. And until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.